Welcome back to Tax Talk with Hey Hey, where we offer simplified tax planning and mentorship to help 6 and 7-figure CEOs ditch the daily hustle by achieving financial independence from your business by increasing your purchasing power and diversifying your source of passive income. Through financial mentorship, realistic goal setting, and simplified tax planning, without having to hustle for the rest of your life, with the guarantee of the optimal roadmap to move you towards your desired time freedom.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Tax Talk with Hey Hey. I am your host, Suhey Piedra. I'm an enrolled agent here in Glendora, California, federally licensed to do taxes across the U.S. And today in our podcast, we have a guest that I just recently met. She is so intriguing. Her name is Jahzeel Lara.
Hello.
So welcome her here. And Jahzeel, before we get started with all of these, business talks or whatever we're going to be talking about, tell us a little personal about yourself. Like, who is Jay-Z? Oh, her nickname is Jay-Z, by the way.
Yes, Jay-Z. So my name is Jahzeel Lara. It's spelled a little differently, Jahzeel. It's Jahzeel. I don't know. That's how it's spelled. I don't know why my mom called me that. It's in the Bible. She messed me up for every first day of school. But so I go by Jay-Z. Jay-Z started off as a family nickname. My cousins on my dad's side of the family would call me that, and eventually it became my friends would call me that.
Well, I have a sister named Jahzeel.
Yeah.
And same thing. I don't know what's up with this name Jahzeel. Like the spelling is so whack. She had like the whole, 26 letters in her name. And I'm like, how is that Jahzeel? Like she had S-S-I-L-L.
Yeah, girl, it was so embarrassing. Like Jahzeel, automatically people are going to pronounce it Jahzeel, especially like, I went to a predominantly white school. They just sounded that shit out. Sorry. And there was one time I was in middle school and I remember it was chemistry class, Mr. Trout. The first day of school, he pronounced my name Jahzeel. I don't know how he got that. I could never live that down after that. And I was always like, Mom, like, God damn it.
Well, now the world knows.
Now the world knows I'm much Jay-Z, okay? But, a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Chino Hills, California. Oh. Yeah, so I'm still there. Can't escape. But yeah, so we, like I said, it was a predominantly white school, and I'm very Latina. So I was born here and I was raised here, but every summer vacation, every Christmas vacation, all my parents' family is back in Mexico. So the instant the bell rang for school to get out, we were back there. So yo me siento más mexicana que americana.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah, but so like, growing up, like, it was just weird going to an all-white school and like being the one Mexican kid, you get made fun of a lot. But so we grew up in Chino Hills, and my dad was an entrepreneur. He, our family, we own gas stations in Tijuana. So we own Pemexes, and my mom was a homemaker. And I am the youngest of 4, and I am the only girl. So I have 3 older brothers. So growing up, it was a little rough. I got beat up a lot.
That's awesome. And I think that, when I first met you, we were at a networking event, and you kind of gave me an idea of what you do and stuff like that. But you're very young. Like, I would have never thought that you had this strong, because talking to you, having a conversation, I sense how strong your entrepreneur skills are. Where does that come from? Do you think it comes from, like, your upbringing or?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I was kind of built into this. Yes, like I said, my father was an entrepreneur. He was a business owner. But I lost my dad when I was 12. I was 13. So I was a little young to learn too much from him. I think that I have a sense of independence from my mom having to take over and kind of, being a father figure in a motherhood. So there's a lot of independence that I get from her. And then obviously just, I haven't known Manny too long, maybe 5-6 years, but I think that he saw I was kind of a very strong-willed person and he knew what I could be. And I guess the 9-to-5 thing was never a norm for me because that's not what my dad was. That's not what I saw. And so it's never that's never what I fit into. I had my 9-to-5 jobs and I was horrible. I do not take well to authority figures.
But see, you recognize that, and that's awesome.
Yeah. And so, like, it just kind of was meant to be for me to be an entrepreneur because I could never fit the mold of being a 9-to-5er. And so I think Manny saw that, and he took me under his wing, and he kind of helped build me into the person I am today, which was, has an entrepreneurial spirit to it.
That's awesome. Like I said, we sense it. If you ever get to meet her in person, it's or have a conversation, you give that vibe right away.
Yeah. By the way, how young do you think I am?
Oh, well, how about you tell us?
I feel like people think that I'm younger than I am.
How old are you?
I'm 32.
Okay, yeah. I put on there late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
But it's still, again, the first impression.
Yeah, of course.
Do you see what I'm saying? So yes, you are. I mean, you're beautiful, right? But
thank you.
You still give out the vibe. You're very young, and so when I look at somebody that's young, you assume, right? The majority of us will assume unexperienced. Right. And so even at 30s, I remember when I was 30, I was still trying to figure out a whole bunch of stuff, because we sometimes don't have those role models to help us, guide us. And I think even if we did, half of the time we probably don't listen because we're so young and we're just like, I tell myself, man, if I knew this at 18, but if I was 18, I'm like, I still wouldn't listen.
Yeah. No, I know when I run into really young people that are really out here doing it, like they're in their young 20s. I'm like, dang, when I was in my early 20s, I was partying. I was not being responsible at all. I'm paying for it now, but good on them,
Yeah. No, for reals. And, but you give that vibe, you give a vibe of, okay, I'm young, inexperienced, but having that conversation, you're totally not that person. Right. The minute that I talked to you, you gave me that vibe of, hey, I'm serious about what I do.
Yeah.
And how'd you get started? I mean, tell us a little bit about what you do.
So I am a franchisee over at the Financial Architects. So I'm a financial strategist. We specialize in tax advantage strategies for families and business owners. So when I got my start there, I actually started off as Manny's assistant. So for those of you that don't know, Manny is the CEO and founder of the Financial Architects. I was a bartender. when I met Manny, we went to the same gym, and he would always come into Raw, where I was a bartender at, with his clients, and so we kind of knew each other from sight at first. We'd be like, oh hey, his face became familiar, and we'd had short conversations, and eventually we're at the gym, and he comes up to me, and at the time his assistant was his niece, but she was leaving to the police academy within a week, and so he needed an assistant ASAP, and he was like, you're very personable, I like you, just come be my assistant. I'll pay you whatever you want. I was like, sold. No. It actually took a couple of conversations with him for me to actually go meet with him and talk about the job, because I was like I said, when I was younger, I didn't it didn't click for me.
Serious.
Yeah, I was not serious. And so eventually I was like, okay, let me go see what this guy, has to offer me. And we sat down, and I was like, oh, this is very interesting. One thing about me, I am pretty nerdy. I love learning. If I could go back to school and that would be the thing that I would do with my life, I would do that. I love sitting in a classroom and learning that way. And so I think that's what I felt when I first sat with Manny, was like, oh, there's a lot to learn here. A lot to learn. Yeah. And so that's why it intrigued me at first. And so I started off as his assistant. I call it a slave.
If you know Manny, it seems that way, right?
Yes, and Manny's a character, so it was hard. It was hard at first, but I eventually graduated to being his operations manager, because he saw that I was a little bit more nerdy, systematic, very organized. And from being his operations manager, I got to learn all the back end of the industry, the contracting, the commissions, and the product knowledge. A lot of the R&D from TFA was me back in the day. So I think that gave me a lot of experience that people coming into the industry, off bat, they don't really get that. Right. So I think that really prepared me for going out into the sales field. Yeah. I know the systems behind it too, and I know a lot of stuff that the common agent doesn't really know. Right,
because you did from the ground up. You did all the back scenes, and coming in as an agent, most of us just say, okay, we want to be an agent, and we take the test, and we want to sell the product. Yeah. But the nitty gritty behind it all.
Exactly. Yeah. I always tell people that I basically had a paid internship, because it's exactly what it was. And not only that, but I got to witness the struggles that Manny had with building his own team. Yeah. So
you're like, ha ha.
So I would know, okay, don't hire someone like that, or at the first sign of this, to kick people out, or this is the kind of person you're supposed to be looking for. This system works, this system doesn't. So I got to experience his mistakes, because I was there, Yeah, so awesome. So it prepared me a lot for what was to come.
That's awesome. And again, I would have never given that, first of all, that you, that you're so mature for your age, you know what I'm saying? And that you have that behind you. Now, on your social media, I told you look very professional and you're always giving away really good tips. And I love watching you there and stuff. But, you know, getting to know you on a personal level and hearing you laugh. And I was like, oh, wait. Is she the same person?
No, I'm a jokester. I like to laugh a lot.
Yeah, and so, you know, one of the things I was telling her is like, when I asked her to be in the podcast, it's like, I want you to talk about, you know, that impression that we get that you're so young and maybe inexperienced, but then you're such this force to be reckoned with. Like, be careful, watch out for her, you know? And then you tell me you have brothers, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's why. She's used to getting picked at all the time.
I guess, my childhood had a lot, obviously, our childhood shapes everyone, but I think that being the youngest and only girl, having 3 older brothers and getting beat up and having a very strict mom and a mom that had to act as a father figure later in our lives, really influenced me to be very strong myself, to be a very strong woman. Like, Manny tells me all the time, like, you're such a strong personality, Jahzeel. And it's true. Like, yeah, I am. And I've never been very demure, like how most women are. I certainly have a presence. I think also when I was growing up, I was very to myself, especially after my father passed away. He passed away in non-norm means. It was something that I felt like I couldn't share with my peers when I was growing up because, like I said, I guess I'll just share it. He passed away. So my father was actually kidnapped in TJ and he was murdered. Oh. So he was kidnapped when I was 12 and then murdered by the time I was 13 because they had held him for ransom. So growing up, living in a predominantly white school,
they wouldn't understand.
Yeah, they would never understand that. So I kept that to myself for the longest time. Like, all my friends, like, they never even know that my dad died. I would just say that he was really busy. And so like but people would ask questions, and so I instead of like opening up to them, I would just kind of put off having friends. And so like I was very into books and into school, and that's how I became such a nerd, I think. I mean, I always loved reading, but more so then. Yeah, so I became very strong and very knowledgeable.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess in your industry, that's also another good quality, right?
Right.
Products change all the time.
Oh, yeah.
New rules, new, regulations come in. And that also helps with the strategy. Would you agree?
Right.
You get presented with different cases, and what do you do?
Exactly. That's one of the things that I love about the financial industry is that it's ever changing.
Yeah.
The economy changes. You have to,
pivot.
You have to pivot. And so I love that because my quest for knowledge is always satiated, like I'm never like bored.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Hey, I relate with that because, man, it is always something that, we get thrown these curveballs. And you're just like, let me figure this out. There's always a way, right? There's always, that's my thing. Yeah. There is always a way. You just have to find it and research it, and then voila, magic happens.
And it's fun. It's fun to do the research. Right. I mean, for me anyway.
Yeah, that's what I say. That's what I always. I'm like, I'm not working, and they're like, but you've been at it for hours. I'm like, yeah, but it's just intriguing the stuff I find. I'm like, maybe not for this client, but for the next one or whatever.
I mean, everyone's contextual, and so it's you're always like learning something new. I love it.
I think that's why I like this girl. Yeah, because she's such a nerd at that, which I love. Yeah. But again, as such a young entrepreneur, what is some advice that you would give others that are out there hustling? I always say it's not easy, but it could be very rewarding. If not if you do it right, because we all have to learn, but it can be very rewarding at a certain point when we've figured out certain things, right? When we follow the right maybe mentors, surround ourselves with the right people.
Right.
I think that's important.
I would say it's exactly that. That's exactly what I was going to say. Surround yourself with the right people. And I'm not saying that you have to leave your old bummy friends, but maybe, it takes some time to separate yourself from them because, like I said, when I was younger, I was a partier and, it was leading up like well into my mid-20s that I was still kind of with my party friends and that's all I cared about. And when I really started to get my shit together was when I, started working at TFA. Manny would bring me around people that were successful. They were entrepreneurs. And that's really when my mind started to shift. Yeah. And I felt that life naturally kind of took me away from those friends. Like, I still have them, some of them, and I still love them. But, like, I look at where they're at and they're at the same place if they didn't also get their shit together. Yeah. So I would say it's really about, like, who you surround yourself with. That whole saying about, like, show me who your friends are, and that's who you are. It's 1,000,000,000% true. Yeah. So I'm always trying to surround myself with people that are smarter than me, more experienced than me. I don't want to be the smartest in the room, like how people say. Like, I may try to, for the most part, try to make sure I'm the dumbest in the room.
No, I don't think that'll ever
Which I am
true.
a lot of times.
No, but you're right. I think that naturally those friends fall off. Yes. Right? It doesn't mean like there's not a good relationship or love for what what you had.
Yeah, of course.
But you tend to outgrow them, right? Right. I think that most of the time when you surround yourself with other like-minded people, I don't really, I'm one of those people that'll say, I don't have friends, right? I don't have a lot of friends, or my sisters are my friends, because I have, 4 sisters that, believe me, if I wanted enemies, my sisters. If I wanted best friends, my sisters. Like, they're the
why have enemies when I have sisters? I never had one,
so all of that, right? So that's my sisters. So I've never said like, oh my gosh, I have friends. But then when I need something or I look into something, I'm like, dude, so-and-so is my friend, but we just have such not a professional relationship, but that's how it kind of started. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so we're at that higher level, and then all of a sudden I'm like, but dude, like, I consider you my friend. Like, you are my friend. Like, you know so much about me, and I can count on you being there. So doesn't that make you my friend?
Exactly. It's just like I guess like a sense of detachment, I think, that you feel when you have like these other friends that are professional. You have this understanding, not detachment. You have an understanding that, like, we're friends, we're cool. When you come with me with a problem, I'll help you and I'll be there for you. But at the end of the day, like, our business is our baby. Yeah. So I guess in back when, like, you had your party friends, like, you guys were all each other had. Yeah. Because you weren't concentrated on this, your career. Right. So there's a sense of detachment there, but it's not that we're not friends.
It just changes.
It just changes. Like, the feelings change, but it's still love.
So all you young entrepreneurs out there, it'll happen, right? Where one of the comments I always make is entrepreneurship can be sometimes lonely, right? You feel sometimes alone, and in reality you shouldn't be, and you're not. There's so many of us out there. Mm-hmm. It's just finding the right crew to be around, other like-minded people that that you can talk to, For me, and like I said, it's always my sisters, right? So Cruz and I, we can have conversations till the wee hours. Yeah. Because we are personal, but yet when we talk business, we can just nerd out. Right, right. But that's how I feel like when you have a best friend, when you have a good friend. Yeah. I'll go out to network, and before you know it, we're like having a glass of wine and we're chit-chatting, and it's like personal but business. Yeah. But the business doesn't feel like it's business. Yeah. Right?
Well, of course. It's like in high school, the common thing you talked about was like, oh, boys. Yeah. Now we grow up and we talked about like, oh, our bank accounts. This is what we love now.
I love that. Yeah. See, boys got replaced with bank accounts.
Yes. It was a great move.
Yes, I would agree. That's awesome. So, give me some of the, maybe role models or maybe books or something that you would recommend out there that people, can maybe follow. I mean, you mentioned your mom, and we're not going to follow her mom unless she has social media, but I'm just kidding.
She doesn't post nothing on her social media besides her nephews. No pictures of me.
But like, what role models or what books, anything that you can give us that, maybe will, inspire somebody else.
Right. I think what I do is I piece together the best parts of people that, that I admire. So my mom is one of them. Manny is another. My friends are other people. I really like... I can't say that I'm much of a self-help book reader. Mm-hmm. Like I said, when I was younger, I loved reading, but I love to save reading for fun. Mm-hmm. Like, I read fiction books and poems and philosophy and stuff like that. So I'm not big on self-help. I will say one book that I did actually enjoy that was, I guess, considered a self-help book is Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've ever read it.
No, I've never read that one.
In it, he basically talks about defeating the devil in yourself, whether it's like an actual, like, what's the word I'm looking for? literal devil or like just the devil lives inside your head that tells you, your inner self that tells you that you can't do it. But I mean, in that very book himself, he talks about the story about how he met with, how Napoleon Hill met, what's his name? Carnegie. And Carnegie tells himself, like, instead of, reading these books or writing these books, why don't you go and interview people and learn from the school of life? And so I think that's kind of like the mantra that I take myself. Like, I learn from life, not so much books.
Yeah.
And like I said, like I learned from Manny's mistakes when I was behind him. And, he's a person that I consider a role model. Yeah. Even my boyfriend now, he's he owns a staffing company and he's very successful. These are the role models that I look at, and I kind of look at their mistakes and I learn from that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, and this girl, when I first met her, she's like, you do you know Manny? And I was like, who's Manny? Who's this guy Manny? Yeah. So we've got to tag Manny on this podcast, so he knows we talked about him. Yeah. But it's Manny Soto from the TFA group. So
Money Business Man on Instagram.
That's who she's talking about. Yeah. But anyways, I like reading books, and I like reading a lot of self-help books. And somebody in this room, I told them once, and I said, enough about the reading. It's time to take action, right? Right. Because we could consume ourselves in reading and following our mentors and everything, but they're giving us a message for a reason. Right. And I think nowadays, we were just at the World Shakers Conference, right? I mean, there's so many conferences we can attend. There's so many.
Shout out Pablo.
There's so many places that we could, follow these amazing speakers. But at the end of the day, we go home, and if you don't take action, nothing changes.
Right.
Nothing changes. Yeah. So I love listening to all this stuff and reading all these books, but there needs to be at the end on the last page something like go take action.
Now go do something with what you just learned.
Exactly.
No, that's the conversation that me and my boyfriend had before we went to the World Shakers. Is like, he's like, like he doesn't like going to those type of shows because they're all like hype. They're hype, Yeah. And so he's like, I hate it. It's just like a whole hype fest. And then when people go home, they go do the same shit. Yeah. And but he went and he really enjoyed it, and like we've had conversations since the World Shakers. I'm like, so how are we gonna like adopt this? Like, so if you're not doing anything with it, don't even go. Yeah,
no. Honesty here. I shedded some tears during that. It wasn't even
during the Lion King snippet. I shed tears.
That Lion King. No. It wasn't that snippets particularly, but there was some moments, going through your personal life, and it was just like I told you, I always feel, and when I talk about myself feeling alone as an entrepreneur, I mean, there's two things about feeling alone or really being lonely. I am not lonely. I have an amazing family. I have an amazing household, my kids and, my boyfriend and all that. Everything's fine. It's just when you have these thoughts that sometimes you're like, who do I share them with when, my mom is totally not going to get it. My dad's not going to, you know what I mean? So it's like, who do you share this with, right? Luckily, my boyfriend's at another level, so I can share a lot of things with him. But when listening to the speakers and all their amazing stories, right? And all of the stuff that they talked about, the commonality was, yourself, like that strong foundation. If you're not at peace with yourself, like no matter how big your empire gets, you run the risk of it crumbling because you're not strong, right?
Or you just won't be happy on the inside.
You're not happy. You're you still have a void that you're trying to fill or whatever. Exactly. So I really loved a lot of what they had to say, a lot of the stuff that they shared. And so, like I said, I just shed some tears because I just related to a lot of the messages that were given. And I'm glad that I took my boyfriend as well because he's going through some stuff. And I was like, look, listen, like at the end of the day, we have to reflect and look at ourselves because what's happening around us has to do with ourselves. Yeah. So if you're not happy about something, look within you. What is it that's causing it, right? Right. And I'm such a strong believer in that. And most of the time, it's something that when I say it, I sound crazy sometimes because I'm like, I don't want to be judgmental, but if you don't like what's going on, like, what about it in you is imbalanced.
It's a projection about what is going on in the inside. No, absolutely.
So I definitely love that.
Yeah, so a lot of that resounded with me too. I was just like, oh my God, like I gotta go work on myself. I gotta go to therapy.
I don't know. I really like that conference. There was a lot of things that I just related to. You know,
who's your favorite speaker? Did you have
honestly? Calvin Becerra's message was just not just his struggle, but God, this guy is 42 years old, and he's been working since 8 years old. He has lived more things than any of us could ever say we have gone through.
Yeah, that man is like a tank. Like, that's how I think of him, and his trajectory in life is just like a tank, just running over everything that like obstacle he faced, just like took over it. Like, yeah,
his story
He's so
was
inspirational.
his story was amazing. But again, at the end of the day, when you look at everything that happened to him and how he started all over, he took action. And that's my big thing, is take action. When I meet with clients and I look at them and they feel defeated, because we all do at some point or another, right? We're tired. Something's draining our energy.
Right.
I will recommend something. I'll be like, hey, maybe a coach, right? Because I'm big on business coaches and life coaches. And I'll be like, hey, what about a coach? What about reading this book? But at the end of the day, you have to make that change. You got to want it, right? You got to look within you to find that energy to make that change.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I don't know.
No,
That's
yeah,
my take
I
on
agree.
it.
I agree. No,
But at the end of the conference, when Pablo, gave had that panel and all that stuff, I just thought it was really good to also share how each and every individual has a different perspective. When Manny was up there with JT.
Oh, that was so funny.
Yeah. But again, we're all entrepreneurs with different opinions.
Yeah.
We can take our finances any direction that we want.
Right.
And be amazing at it. So
exactly.
I definitely agreed with both of them. They both had really strong points.
Yeah, different paths to one end goal. Everyone has their own path.
Yes, for sure.
sure.
You got to tag the World Shakers.
Yeah, World Shakers Conference.
Next year will be 3, I believe, right?
Yeah. Next year will be number 3. And hopefully I'm involved in that one too. A little more prepared, but
You will.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, anything else that you want to share before we wrap up? I definitely, like I said, just find you as this, force that we have to watch out for. So,
oh, thank you. Anything that I want to add? Not that I can think of off the top of my head. If you want to find me, Jahzeel on Instagram.
What about, lastly, I just want you to share, what's your routine like?
Like my day-to-day routine?
Yeah, sure. What keeps you going? What's your drive?
Oh, my drive or my routine?
Well, what's your routine, but how do you get going in the mornings? Like, what makes you get up?
So in the morning, and I actually kind of fell off recently because I've just been so busy, but I used to do this thing where like I would wake up and I would name 3 things that I was grateful for. I think expressing gratitude is just as important as wishing for what you want, or like, manifesting. But that's what I used to do. I'm going to get back on it because it worked wonders for my spirit. But really what I like to do is not go for my phone right away. That doesn't always work. And I just kind of like to take those moments to, do my gratitude and then go straight to the bathroom and get ready, kind of like freshen up my face, and then kind of spend like a moment with myself. And then I'll go on my phone and I'll check my emails. But I like to kind of list I like to list out things to do for that day. Every day, I always have a to-do list for every day, not just like the week, not just the month, not just goals for the month. I just break it down day by day, sometimes hour by hour, like what I want to get done. Just because I'm very ADHD. I get distracted so easy. So if I don't have these things, like my day will be so unproductive. Yeah. But I think the drive that keeps me going, it's not really much of a drive. There are times that I feel very unmotivated. And I lean on others for motivation, whether that be Manny or my boyfriend or my friends. I have entrepreneur friends too that, they tell me like, keep going, you can do it. But it's discipline.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I'm not saying that I'm the most disciplined person in the world. I'm not at all. I fall off a lot. But it's just having those people to, kind of witness that and say like, hey, fucking up. Get back on the goddamn track, And I do have those people. I have those people in place and I lean on them a lot. Yeah. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like that. That was one of the things I talked to Francisco Jara at the event. I'm like, look, I watch you. I'm following you on Instagram.
He's
I just
so great.
met you.
Yeah.
I've only seen him a couple times, but I was like, dude, I still struggle with discipline, And he's like, we could talk. And, he talked about certain things and stuff. But it's definitely discipline. But either way, I think we should be proud of ourselves.
Absolutely, yeah.
We've gone through, a lot to just be where we're at. Exactly. And so give ourselves a pat in the back.
Exactly.
And celebrate our wins, because you have a lot of wins as well. And so who cares?
Exactly. At the end of the day, we've all survived the worst day of our lives, is what I tell myself. Like, I made that day. I made it through that day. So it's like, I have a lot to be proud of. We all have a lot to be proud of.
Yeah. So love it. On that note.
Yeah, on that note.
Awesome. But thank you for being here. I really do appreciate that you took the time of the day to be here.
Thank you for having me.
And share a little bit about your story. My goal was to, have her here so she can share, who she is aside from her professional self, and so you can hear her laugh. But anyways, and so thank you all for being here. Please remember to follow us on Instagram at prominence.services or our website, prominencebusiness.com. And we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for being here with us.
Yay.
So if your mindset is ready to excel to the next level and you want to give up the multiple hats to a business who will support you, then schedule a call with us today. We can be reached at 626-825-8249. Please give us a review and share us with your friends and family.